Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your video is off, but your audio is on.
I just asked if they could see me and they said yes.
We live.
I know, that's why I
Yeah,
asked if they could see me. They said,
We hear you, Claudia.
oh, there's the start video thing. Okay, I see it now. Thanks.
I have no.
Okay. All right. We're ready to go.
Okay.
All right. So welcome to our special trustees meeting today. Keep in mind that if you want to participate throughout the meeting, we'll have opportunities for that, public participation after certain topics and certainly at the end. So if you want to have input, you can click the raise your hand button on the participants panel. If you're on a phone, you would press *9 and we could see that your hand is raised and you could participate that way. So let's see here. We want to go, is Debbie here?
No, I'm taking her place until she gets here.
All right, so Claudia, you want to go ahead and call the meeting to order?
Mr. Kelly,
Here.
Mr. Freeman,
Here.
Mrs. Batchelor.
Here.
All right, we'll go ahead and roll into the pledge. Alan, you want to lead us in the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Alan.
You're welcome.
All right. Let's see here. Hey, Eddie,
Yes.
do we have another version of the agenda that doesn't have yellow highlighter on it?
No, we don't.
Why not?
Well, this is what I've been doing, but if you want it differently, because the original agenda only had this new business item. So when I've been making changes, I've been noting the revisions by highlighting it so the public would know, but I can stop doing that.
Yeah, I don't know if the public, I would just have one clean copy that we can roll out at the end that's, has everything on it.
I won't do it this way anymore.
All righty. New business, Loretta.
Yes, the original notice was provided quite some time ago because there are timelines associated with TIFs. So the request that I have to make is a motion for resolution 2020-026, declaring improvements to parcels of real property located in Pierce Township, Ohio, to be a public purpose under section 5709.73C of the Ohio Revised Code, accepting such improvements of real property taxation, authorizing the execution of such documents as may be necessary, and establishing a tax increment equivalent fund. And this relates to the Prestwick TIF number 2.
Okay, so the essence of this is we're engaging in another TIF, a second TIF.
Yes, this is the next phase, and there are 3 phases total for this TIF.
Do I have a
I make the motion.
I'll second.
Roll call, Claudia?
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bachelor,
yes,
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
The
Uh,
other items I can do, if you want me to proceed to ask for the fiscal officer's items.
Yeah, the next thing I have here is all the motions from Debbie. Is that what you mean?
Yes,
Yeah, so Claudia's gonna do those or you're gonna do them?
I can do those.
Okay.
So the fiscal officer requests a motion for approval of the payment of payroll for the month of August 2020 in the amount of $380,892.95.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Seconded.
Roll call.
Mrs. Bachelor,
Yes,
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Fiscal officer Debbie Shui requests a motion for approval of the payment of bills for the month of August 2020 in the amount of $487,151.91.
So moved.
second,
Roll call.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bachelor,
yes,
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
The fiscal officer also requests a motion approving the transfer of vehicle title to Lindale Auto Salvage to dispose of a 1990 Ford F800 armored vehicle deemed obsolete, inoperable, and unfit for use by Pierce and Batavia Township. This was the old armored vehicle that was sitting behind the police department in the village of Amelia. And basically there was no value to it, but for the towing of it, the tow company was willing to accept it.
so moved.
Seconded.
Roll call.
Mrs. Bachelor,
Yes,
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
And I have another motion from Debbie, if I could insert it here. We received another reimbursement from the capital funds for the Learning Center project. So she also requests a motion to repay the advance from the general fund to the Learning Center project fund in the amount of $107,750.40.
So moved.
second,
Roll call.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bachelor,
yes,
Mr. Kelly.
Yes. All right, Service Director Kohler.
I request a motion to promote Jonathan McLemore from Service Department Maintenance Worker 2 to Service Department Maintenance Worker 3 at the rate of $17.50 per hour on October 7th, 2020 payroll.
So moved.
I'll second,
Roll call.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bachelor,
yes,
Mr. Kelly.
Yes. Loretta, back to you for trick or treat.
Yes, most importantly, with the understanding that there are CDC and state guidelines that we will also publish when we post this. But I request a motion to designate the Halloween trick or treat night on October 31st from 6 to 8 p.m.
so moved.
Seconded.
Roll call.
Mrs. Bachelor,
Yes,
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes. All right, Amelia updates. Tom, do you want to start with us?
Well, do you want me to discuss the litigation first, or do you want to talk about this draft resolution?
Let's go with the litigation for $200.
Okay, yeah, there are three things that are important to be aware of. Number one, in a declaratory judgment, each side has a chance to write written arguments or briefs. And as I'm sure Alan would say, a brief by a lawyer is never brief. It's always lengthy. But be that as it may.
Hey, don't use my material, man.
I know. I just, okay. So in this case, both sides have filed 2 briefs. First, the plaintiffs filed, then the defendants filed. And the plaintiffs, as you remember, are the village represented by the law firm that has represented them, and also the, let's call them outgoing officials. The defendants are the incoming elected officials. So first, the plaintiffs filed their first brief. Then the defendants filed their reply brief. Then the plaintiffs recently filed their reply brief. And finally, the defendants filed their reply brief. So point number 1 is that all of the briefs are filed now. So the judge has every argument that he's going to get, and all of the issues are in front of the judge right now. So that's number 1. Number 2 is we filed jointly with Batavia a short, very short memorandum indicating that both townships would like the court to make a decision as quickly as possible. And we gave several reasons why. That's a public document and is available to the public. That's number 2. Number 3 is that the court has scheduled a report for October the 6th. And a report means a report, and it's up to the judge as to who does what, whether the judge wants to listen to arguments then, whether he just wants to talk to the plaintiffs and the defendants. We don't know, but I am planning on being able to participate in that along with Attorney Dave Fry, whether it's virtual or in person. So at that point, I want to at least have the ears and eyes to watch what's going on and to be able to report as much as possible back to you. So that's the 3rd item. Any issues with that so far? Okay, so then the second part, as mentioned on the agenda, is that Trustee Freeman asked that we prepare a draft of a resolution requesting that the holdover officials resign voluntarily. And so I prepared that resolution and distributed it to all of you yesterday or Monday, I forget which, but it's done as a request and it's done as a draft. So it's for your discussion, your consideration, and it's up to you whether you want to consider it or not, or amend it or not. That's it.
So probably it would be helpful to provide some background as to why I made the request that the resolution be drafted. Primarily that stems from the most recent agenda that the auditor's office put out, where one of the action items to be discussed was for 3 different alternatives that would allow the village council to go ahead and meet. And as we all know, that by meeting, that allows us to take a vote on 1, ending the village, and 2, among other things, and 2, ending the tax inside the village. Since that's really kind of the crux of the legal issues, the question, I mean, essentially what the state auditor was suggesting were 3 alternatives that they felt would allow us to call a meeting and go ahead and have it so that those issues could be resolved. I presume they ran it through their legal counsel. I don't know. But once those 3 alternatives were presented at the most recent auditors meeting, legal counsel for the village shot down essentially all 3. After hearing them shoot each one of them down, an alternative was suggested. I came up with an alternative, which I shot back at them, which legal counsel for the village could not say, they couldn't really shoot that down. And so what you see in the resolution is the culmination of that proposal that I presented at the auditors meeting. And so essentially what we would be asking is that the 3 holdovers would resign There are 4 existing council members that were not up for reelection at the last election. And so a council meeting could convene and presumably appoint 3 members of council. There's, I will tell you that does not necessarily mean that the 3 newly electeds would be the one that the 4 would actually appoint. There is some risk to that, but essentially this just puts the township, Pierce Township, on the record as saying this is the direction we should go. Now, I want to also add that since we're coming up so close on the October the 6th date, we may want to hold this until our October meeting, only because we don't know what the judge is going to say on October the 6th. But I wanted to be able to bring this out, share this with the other 2 trustees, have a discussion about it, and then we can collectively decide how we want to move forward with this particular draft. And I think, Tom, you had some reservations also because you were worried that this could throw a wrench into the existing litigation. And so I want to be sensitive to that because I don't want anything to delay the litigation. So if that's something we need to do, we can always hold this over until our October meeting. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on why this appears and what the gist of it is.
Okay, so is there anything, Tom, that would throw a wrench in it if we were to move forward with this resolution now? Would this affect it?
I wouldn't use the expression throwing a wrench into it, because throwing a wrench means it would stop things. I think the fact that this resolution leans toward taking sides in a dispute, then, as Alan explained it, it doesn't really take sides. And that's what our memorandum says. We're not taking sides. But this might be perceived as taking the side of the newly elected officials. And it's possible that the newly elected officials may attempt to introduce this resolution as an exhibit. But the problem is the time for exhibits and the time for evidence is over. So the question of whether it's going to throw a wrench into it would be a question of whether the judge would accept new evidence at this point. And I don't know the answer to that. I don't think a judge would. I think a judge would say, no, he's going to make his mind up on the memorandums that have been filed, the briefs that have been filed, and the legal arguments that have already been made. So I don't think it'll throw a wrench into it, but it may be considered.
But Tom, to reframe that question, assuming on October the 6th, they find in favor of the new council members, would this have any impact on that? Or let's think in the contrary, say they find the judge rules in favor of the village. How would this have an impact on that?
I don't think it would then, but I think it's unlikely that the judge will make a final ruling on October 6th. I think on October 6th, the judge might at most discuss it, maybe display his inkling, or maybe not, or maybe just decide whether there's going to be oral argument or not, because that even oral argument hasn't been totally disposed of yet. Most declaratory judgments are done on the written pleadings and written memorandums, but the question of oral argument may come up. So I'd be a little bit surprised if the judge makes a final ruling on October 6th.
Well,
Can I put my 2 cents worth in, Nick?
yeah, absolutely. You don't have to ask me.
Hey, you're the chair. We have fought this, gone through this, Batavia Township, Pierce Township, all the trustees, the people in the village. October 6th is next week. I don't want to do anything that anyone can perceived the wrong way and prolong this any longer. I think we've all had enough of this. And, I understand they want the earnings tax to go away, and it should as soon as we can possibly do it. I just want everything to please, let's get through this. Let's close the books on this. Welcome all of you on the southern portion. You are now all of us, Pierce Township, North, you're all Batavia Township. Let's just work to get this done. It's prolonged everything too long, and let's don't do anything. Let's wait and see what they say on October the 6th. That's my 2 cents worth.
Yeah,
Up to the nickel's worth.
I pretty much agree with all that. I don't think doing anything at this point that could in any way even theoretically jeopardize the expedience of this decision would not be a good thing. And in addition to that, I think, as Bonnie stated, I think all of our priority is to get this thing wrapped up and end this tax priority over anything else. So hopefully we see something move. And if we don't, I guess we could table this motion and have it there and ready if this avenue for some reason doesn't pan out. All right, any other, see, we got any public comment on this topic? *9 if you're on your phone. Participant panel, use that to raise your hand if you're on a computer. Okay, I'm not seeing any.
Renee's there.
What's that?
Renee just raised her hand.
Oh, all right, I see it.
Good morning.
Good
Morning.
Alan, what was the third thing that you said? You said that ending the village, ending the tax, and what was the third thing that was discussed?
There wasn't a third.
Oh, okay. Just
There were
those two.
there were three alternatives that the auditor provided, but that was it.
Okay. And legal, then, so Kathleen Ryan shot down all three or all
Yeah,
of those?
yeah. I would, if it's okay, I would like to have this agenda attached to our minutes as part of the report on Amelia progress, because it provides those three alternatives that were presented to us. So I think it'd be good for this to be a public document. So Claudia, I mean, unless my colleagues have a differing opinion.
For what? The synopsis of the auditor meeting?
No, this is the agenda, and in the agenda, it very specifically lays out the three alternatives. And so rather than me read it here for everyone and bore everyone to death, at least if we attach it to our minutes, we've got it serialized and put on the record.
Sure. Okay. So we're talking about the agenda from the auditor meeting?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Can I get a copy of that today by any chance?
Loretta, do you have your version? Loretta?
Do you want it for coffee?
Yes, I do. Sorry, I was turned around looking for it in my stack here, but I also know that Batavia Township was providing the summary of that last meeting. So there will also be minutes from that can be posted. I think that they're close to being done.
So Loretta, if you could make a copy of that agenda and then Renee, it's available.
Okay. Without going into too much about the legal stuff, I feel that there may be a decision made on the 6th. But I mean, if there's some way to hold out hope that we would still be able to, gain our seats. You know, I appreciate, Alan, that you want to go out on a limb, so to speak, to, try to get us in there, which I think is, the right thing to do. But, my attorney always tells me all the time that my feelings don't count towards the law. So, they don't take in consideration your feelings. It's all done by the law. But, the other thing I wanted to state is that, when I introduced Todd's pay and stuff, I find it interesting, or I guess ironic maybe, that I get the emails from the township about what's going on in the neighborhood. Not Todd. Todd doesn't get those emails. I get emails to check on my residents who have water issues and stuff like that. And I'm not getting paid $3,333.33 a month, but I do it anyway. I don't neglect any emails that come from Pierce Township and say that's not my business. I'm not mayor. I take in that. And my question is, and Loretta, you're going to hate us, but if this goes on past October, we're going to get another junk day. And that's another thing that Todd should be taking care of, but probably isn't going to. And, my thing is if I've been doing this job for the past 6 months and he's getting paid for it, I don't understand how this, they can be in control. I mean, where is his, even with you guys, where does his job and his pay come into effect if I'm effectively getting all the emails to interact with residents about their issues? I mean, are emails even going out to Todd? I mean, again, I'm not saying I don't want to do it, and I have done it, but the fact of the matter is he's still supposed to be mayor and or administrator, whatever you want to call him, and getting paid, but yet I'm doing his work.
Well, I think that the answer might be kind of twofold, Renee, from like a legal perspective, as far as Todd getting paid and why he's getting paid and stuff. I mean, we've been opposed to that since the very beginning. I can't really answer. I mean, I can't answer that. I don't know why
Right.
that the state auditor is coming to the conclusions that they're coming to. And on the other end of the coin, though, as far as emails and stuff, what kind of emails what kind of stuff are we talking about?
Well, the fact that one, that Tim and I, relate to Loretta about the junk day. The other one was an issue, and I think John can go over this a little bit more. A lady up the street had a water issue and kind of went off on Pierce Township, and everybody kind of, said that it wasn't them. And I got an email to address her as to what her options were, and, know that Pierce Township is looking into it. Then the other thing is, I called and discussed with, or emailed Loretta about, trick or treat, and there's a couple other things I can't think of right off the top of my head. But I mean, we're still fighting for, again, I hate to beat the dead horse, but, we've got nobody representing us. Therefore, everybody still comes to us and says, can you find out this information?
But Renee, that's actually an overstatement. To say that there's nobody representing Amelia residents, that is a huge overstatement. And I apologize, but
No.
but I have to push back on that, because when you send those comments to us, the township reacts and they take care of it. And
Absolutely.
so we are representing them, and we certainly have been representing the village interests, as you can see by this motion and other things we've done. We've been representing the interests of the village the entire time. And we've been pushing back hard on the auditor's office, which quite frankly has dropped the ball. So we have been representing the village and the village residents on a regular basis.
Renee, if I could add, when you get a question from someone that lives up there, I think you should direct those people to contact Pierce Township and let us deal with them, that, you know, that would take all of that off of your shoulders.
Well,
You're
yeah,
gonna have to learn to deal with us anyway.
exactly.
You know, I mean, when they have a problem, we can direct the right person to take care of those issues.
Right.
It
But
shouldn't
again-
fall on you to do it.
But,
Should.
but to add, but to also buttress what you're saying, Renee, there is a big mystery as to what the mayor is doing and what's keeping him busy every day. So I completely agree with you on that. And I believe all three of us are in the same, all three of the board of trustee members here are in the same category with you. We do not understand why the state will not reconsider paying for whatever it is he is allegedly doing.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And but the other element of that is what's functional and what's going to get things done for the residents too. And you can, you know, plan for how things are and you can plan for how you wish they'd be. And we wish that Mayor Hart would have stepped up and done more to, you know, justify his compensation up to now. But that hasn't happened, even despite the fact that we've asked about it and asked for a list of what he does and all that stuff. Is just not, you know, with the bureaucracy and the way things are, you know, getting done at this point, well, or not getting done, depending on how you look at it. It's been really a difficult thing for us to manage. So, you know, we found ways to work around it, and you've been helpful from a communicative perspective, to communicate with residents. And even after this dissolution transition process is over and the dissolution is completed, I think there still might be a useful element of that goes on. You know, you have your Wake Up Amelia site, you're in tune with people in that specific area. As we have people that are in tune with Legendary Run and email lists there. And, you know, we use various different networks to communicate our messages and for people to communicate back to us as well, which just from a public, perspective is advantageous for all parties. So, I mean,
Right.
look, your frustrations are shared. Don't get me wrong. I just, you know.
Right. And Alan, I don't mean to offend. I mean, everything that has gone on in the way of road repair and fire, EMS, police, all of that has been outstanding and has not been not noticed by the residents of Amelia. Our problem is if I have an issue about my tax and my, you know, anything else, there's nothing that you guys can do to help us with that. That's kind of, you know, where our point is, and what I've made completely, you know, our number one priority is to make sure. And I think, you know, without going on to what may happen on Tuesday, you know, I think it's just hard, you know, because I can't say a lot, and it's, you know, for Tim, Don, and I think this has been a hard fought fight for what's right and what, you know, people voted for. And, you know, I don't know if the turnout is going to be what we wanted. And, you know, we have to make a decision on what's best for our residents to continue this battle. You know, money wise, you know, Bonnie, we talked the other day, and, you know, the money that is being spent to make sure that Tim, Don, and myself do not take these seats is outrageous. And it's just, you know, it's not acceptable to the residents. And that's a shame that they have no voice about it at all. So, you know, you all know where I lie, and I appreciate, Alan, that you want to do this resolution. And I know where you guys are coming from. It's, you know, about taking sides, but, you know, sometimes you got to be the bigger person and decide what's right for everybody involved. And whether that's going out on a limb or not, you know, it's just heartbreaking. It really is. So
I completely agree with you, Renee. I mean, this should have been a simple process that should have, I mean, I understand all of the legal components and I understand all the financial components. That's all well and good, but quite frankly, this has taken far too long. And, it could have been resolved from day one. And again, I mean, I've complained about this before, and Renee, you and I are complete in agreement with this, but the state has really botched this. And, I just, it's sort of a cautionary tale, really, for other communities that are thinking about the same thing. Be cautious, because the state, quite frankly, doesn't seem to know what they're doing. And the wreckage that's left behind is unacceptable. It's just completely unacceptable. And Renee, quite frankly, you guys should have been seated after November the 25th. If that's the way they were going to play this game, instead of telling us on November the 25th, we only need 3 people. We need a mayor or administrator. We need a fiscal officer and a lawyer. If they had given us the decision that they gave us in March, back on November the 25th, then we should have seated you. That should have just happened. And I just think it's ridiculous that here we are, almost a year down the line, and we're not done. We're still, waiting and looking at our feet, and that the auditor presents us with 3 alternatives on how to seat a council. I mean, we've offered, counting this resolution that you're looking at here, and Tom, you can back me up on this, we actually gave an alternative very similar to this back in May to the state, and they rejected it. That would have allowed the 3 of you to be seated, and the state of Ohio rejected it. I mean, I feel for you guys, I do, and it's sad. And I feel for the fact that here we are sitting a year down the line, and that tax is still being collected. I mean, I know that wasn't the only thing that brought down the village. I understand all that, but here we are in a pandemic, and people are losing their jobs left and right, and things are tight for everybody and stressful for everybody. And this tax that people voted against to get rid of is still being taken from people who, quite frankly, can't really afford it. And what's it going to? Well, I mean, for everybody's view, what it would seem to go for is paying for, some things that they didn't want to begin with, legal counsel, what else? The mayor's salary. I mean, it's like the only person that made out on this are those people.
Exactly.
The attorneys, no offense, Tom, but I feel like the first 4 or 5 months of this whole ordeal were for nothing, because
Correct.
we followed all of the advice that Dave Thompson stood over at the school, talked about, and then 4 or 5 months into this was about face, and everything we have been told to do and tried to do, follow their guidelines. Well, now it's nothing. Nothing is the way we should have been doing it. I don't think they knew what they were doing. That's my own.
I totally agree.
And
that's really, I'm sorry, Renee, go ahead.
And that's going to be my next fight, is regardless of this outcome, my fight isn't over, because this needs to be taken to the state legislation, and new laws need to be written about disillusions, because I would not recommend to anyone to dissolve their village with the process that has gone on to this point. I mean, this has been the most backward ass stuff I have ever seen in my life. And if somebody's a corrupt village and needs to go away, I would even still tell them not to do it. And we need to, and I don't know if any of you, are on that boat or would get aboard to get in front of the Ohio legislation and voice our displeasure and how the state screwed it up. And if they would have left everybody alone, it would have been taken care of. It would have been done, over with, and that's not it. That's, it's milking the tax dollars more and more from us. And like you said, Bonnie, for what? to pay an attorney that is so hell-bent on us not getting into office. And the question I raise every time when I see they spend $100,000, over $100,000 to make sure we don't get in office, why? Why don't they want us there? There's got to be a reason. Because if it's just to end the village, who cares who's in there? There's a reason why they don't want us there. So, I appreciate everything y'all have done. I mean, and this is my only outlet to vent, to you guys. And hopefully, next month, this will be a better conversation.
Well, I to jump off or seg off of what you just said, Renee, I've actually been working on that very subject with state legislature. So perhaps at a later point, the two of us could compare notes and see if we can't get something moving with regard to reforms that need to be made to really come up with a code that says, this is what you do, this is how it gets done, and these are the rights that people have in this process. So if you want to, I'm happy to join up with you and
Absolutely.
And we can try to work together on that.
Yeah.
And Renee, if I could just add the statement you made, if any other village was thinking about it, they would have to be nuts to go through this right now, seeing what we've all gone through for this past year.
Right.
Until something new is done that gives them better guidelines than what all of us were given from the very get-go, I'd forget that in a heartbeat.
Exactly.
Well, one of the, sorry, Renee, go ahead.
No, I said, we tried to get in there to change it, but I think the damage was so far done, by Todd that it was, we couldn't fix it. Nobody was going to vote to keep this village alive after what he had done. So, that's the unfortunate issue.
But it comes off, the way this works and the way it has effectively been accomplished, it really does kind of fit the fable of the grasshopper and the ants, doesn't it? So yes. Here you have a township that's worked very hard to maintain its budget and work very hard to be frugal. And then you've got a village that didn't seem to care about that. And all of a sudden it comes and it becomes part of our debt load. And suddenly the grasshopper who played all summer is now eating our larder. And so, we've had to work very hard to overcome that, but the state provides us with zero control over how that's accomplished and what's said or what's done. We don't drive this train according to the state of Ohio, and they say they're an advisory role, but their advice is usually the way they intend us to do it. And so, that can't be when you've got, and I'm sure this isn't going to be the only case, but if you have a village that quite frankly is overspending and doing things that are questionable financially, and you've got a township that's worked very hard to do the contrary, how can we not have more control and more say over how this process moves forward? And that's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
I agree.
For a whole host of reasons, there needs to be legislation that really guides this. So you don't have the auditor's office going, you know what, this is Tuesday. I think this is the way we'll rule to Tuesday. We'll revisit this on Wednesday. Or we ask questions and it takes us over a month to get an answer. So we can't move forward with decision-making at the township level because we don't have an answer for 30 days or more. So there's just so much here that needs to be unpacked and needs to be codified on the state level to protect everyone from this nonsense.
But it's not affecting the state, it's affecting us
right
here in Pierce Township. So
but the state, but a state elected official should be concerned about how people's taxes are being spent and or wasted. And by their action, they have wasted our tax money. They have had an impact on our budget because we've had to hire lawyers and we've had to go through this process without any control. They've affected the budgets and the taxes of people living in the village of Amelia. They have hurt those people because they've wasted all this money and all this time. And this is, I mean, I don't want to say it that it's criminal, but it sure as hell feels like it.
All right. Well, I think we do. I mean, I'm happy to help with that aspect too, Renee, having been involved in it now for however long, and maybe I have some suggestions that might be the same or similar to Alan or Bonnie or maybe different, but if I can help in any way, I think, again, it's kind of a twofold deal. I think I agree with you that after this is over, that'd be a good thing to really drive home. So if somebody else wants to, they shouldn't be afraid to pursue something like this if they have a incompetent local government that they want to dissolve. They should be able to vote and do that. And they shouldn't have to go through this. So you want to do something moving forward, but we also want to do, short term, I think is important too. And short term is we're looking at getting this done and getting it over. And I think the residents could benefit the most by having it done and having their income tax stop and having the money and taxes that they're paying stop going to attorneys and stuff. So I know the area does become a little gray. I mean, we talk about what's right and wrong, and there's a few different things at play here. And I think from our perspective, Tom, I don't think that we said we weren't taking sides. I think that we said in our statement that our priority was to get rid of the tax and to end this dissolution process as soon as possible for the residents of Amelia. I think that's first and foremost the most important thing that we have on our plate in the near term. And I hope we can all work together to get that done. How we get that done is, again, it's kind of a gray area. I kind of get that. But as far as right and wrong, I think for the most maximum benefit for the most amount of people, those are the top two priorities.
I agree.
Renee,
Yeah,
on the water main, on that water line,
yes.
I was out there within about a half hour of getting a phone call about it.
Yep.
I informed Tate Monroe. They went out. They said it was in the line between the meter and the house. He went ahead and shut the water off at that point, but then they went out and turned it back on. He informed them that they were losing about 6 gallons per minute. And they didn't seem to care. And when he informed the landowner, because I guess it's a rental house, he said, I don't care because it's not my water bill. So
That's awesome.
that's what I was informed by Tate Monroe.
That's
Yeah,
the pinnacle of altruism right there.
right.
He should care because it is his house. They defunk on that water bill, I believe it will come back on him to pay that.
And it's just a gushing. I mean, it's,
Well,
and-
I'm worried about the infrastructure of the road. I mean, you get
right.
completely saturated, but there's nothing legally I can do right now.
Right. And that's why we did, I mean, if anybody saw the post, which a lot of people did, we defended you guys and said, that's not, wait a minute, you're blaming the wrong people, there's something wrong with your water. And I'm afraid that if it's under that porch, like I've heard it is, that compromises the whole foundation of the house, or at least the porch, part of it.
Yes, and it could. I mean, it could start eroding it out.
So, but I again, that goes back to me, saying to you, John, thank you, for everything you do. I know Mike came out and talked to you the other day when you were doing the curbs and,
Yeah.
We all see it, that's not our issue and never, I don't think is going to be a problem, so I just wanted you to know, John, that it was nothing that we said, I don't know what to do if a resident gets online and pisses and moans and then you tell her what to do and she won't do it. So,
Well, in her defense, it's not her job to pay for that water line. It's the homeowners.
Right.
So she's kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place also, but she
Right.
has water.
Yeah.
So,
All right. We've got Tim. I'm going to go ahead. Renee, you got anything else?
No, I don't. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks. I'm going to go ahead and let Tim speak here. He's had his hand raised for a while. Let's see. Tim. All right, Tim, you're unmuted.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
You know, Renee was right on target. You know, we will not end this fight. Even after the judge makes his decision on either way. Alan, were you at the state meeting, the recent one?
Yes,
Was Todd Hart there?
no. But in fairness, Tim, I don't know who was on the phone. They
Okay,
did not identify everyone that was, I was in the room,
sure.
but so I mean,
Okay,
as you well know, I don't often come to Todd's defense, but
right. No, I get
I
it.
can't say that he wasn't there.
I get it. And, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but I guess the question for Tom, and the trustees. Okay, decision making, like there was alternative given from what Alan was saying of, what, different possibilities could happen. And Alan said that Kathleen and Ryan shot it down. Not one trustee, not one council member can make a decision. It takes all three of you folks, and it took all six of us. We have one person who does not have the best interest of any of the former village residents in mind making the decisions for us. She makes decisions based on what Todd Hart wants her to do. And she's being paid $10,000 a month to do it. It's so disturbing, continuously disturbing, that this is even happening. And that's why Renee and I, and we decided after, whatever happens, no, we need to go to the state level. There's no doubt. This is beyond frustrating. It's Alan, you said before, we're approaching a year. We're almost to the next election year, and this is still going on. And it's just a pure shame. We have an attorney, Kathleen Ryan, who has no contract, currently is out of contract. I think there should have been something done. I think the judge should have had to reach out to the townships. He should have had to get approved, to ask for approval if she could continue as the attorney for the village. It should just been, hey, you know what? Just because she don't have a contract, she can continue. When I was on council, the solicitor could not make any decision. It was up to council, but now it's reversed. And I know it's a potentially dissolved village based on vote, but it still does not make any sense how we have a so-called Todd Hart, who is the manager, the so-called manager right now, and a solicitor making decisions on what they feel is best for the going forward in this dissolution. I just had to get that out, guys. I'm listening to Renee and I'm listening to you guys. I know everyone, is frustrated. I'm frustrated. I'm disappointed it's taken this long. I was hoping there'd be a determination by now, but I don't know. Alan and Renee and even Nick, I'm all with you. We can't have this going on in other villages. In the residents need to think twice before doing something like this, because it's just very destructive. So that's basically what I had to say. And just after that, I'm lost for words, guys.
Thanks, Tim. I
Nick?
couldn't
Nick,
agree
also-
more, man, particularly with the sentiments about, how government typically, the fundamental aspects of how it operates, with usually a board or a council that's been elected by people. These decisions are getting made, and I brought that up at the meeting before that I was at, that under what, authority are these decisions getting made? To me, there is none. I mean, you got a mayor that was voted out and an attorney that was never voted in, and you've got some kind of big decisions getting made. But again, that's where the state auditor pushed it back to after they gave their opinions on things back in March, and it's really taken to me a fundamentally flawed turn in how this whole situation has been dealt with.
Nick,
Yes, Tom.
one very slight clarification I want to make. When Alan was describing the three alternatives, Alan used the term that the legal counsel for the village shot them down. And that's a good description. But I think the reason that she gave is that if one side or the other gave up, now, for example, if Tim and Renee and Dan gave up, then the case wouldn't be decided, because the village would still face the risk that other citizens would file suit and say that Tim, Renee, and Dan should be in office. So in the same way, if Todd and the people who were voted out, if they step down voluntarily, then there still are citizens in the village who might have filed suit because of the dispute over who should be in office. So I think her point was, you can't mediate this case, you can't arbitrate this case, and you can't voluntarily settle it because of what the issues are. So she expressed the opinion that the court has to rule on it in order for it to be resolved fully and finally. And I think that was her point.
Tom, I get that too, but I think what Tim's looking at from that vantage point, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than a legal deal. It's more of a, as far as, because it's still subjective, right? That's her opinion. That's not exactly factual. That's not really a perfect answer. That's not a right answer. It's what she thinks the best avenue to take would be, and who is she to decide what the best avenue to take is, because she was never elected. There's no elected official instructing her on what to do. So I know it's a unique situation, but I think that's where, from a larger perspective, how are these decisions, and it's still a decision getting made without proper representation.
Yes, right.
Well,
You had the state auditor giving opinions one way that said that Todd and Mr. I forget the financial fiscal officer and attorney Kathy Ryan should represent the village. And then you had the taxpayers' demand sent by Renee's attorney saying that they should not be, and that she should. So you had those legal disputes that were established. And I think that's the reason why she felt like you can't resolve those disputes just by letting those people settle it. There were bigger issues than that. So that's why she said it.
But now to drill down a little bit more on what Tim said, though, there has been mission creep throughout this entire process. I mean, let's remember back to one of the first meetings that I went to back in January or February. We made it very clear that we wanted to limit the salary of Mr. Hart. At that time, I very clearly remember the auditor's representative walking out saying, "How much do we want to pay him?" And my answer was $0. And he said, "Well, that's not doable." And I said, "You asked for our position, here it is." And I said, "I guess we'll have to negotiate from there." We left that meeting with the understanding that it would be $2,000 a month, and it would only be for like 5 or 6 months. And then we would make an assessment as to whether or not he's needed anymore. Now, somewhere along the line, someone decided to pay him more. And that was never brought before the group of us. We did not have to make a motion. We did not have to agree to it. But somehow that happened. And so, once again, also with what Tim said, Kathy's contract came due. Did we vote on that? Did we vote to extend it? Did the auditor's office just extend it? So there's a lot of mission creep, and I think legislation could do a good job of backstopping this stuff so that mission creep stops. We have a defined explanation for what's going to happen, because at the end of the day, we can only do so much when it comes for legal action. We're really going to have some very definitive legislative action in order to do some rules of the road so that we can stop doing that. But I did notice that Pete's got his hand up, so I will shut up.
Thanks, Alan, for the input, not for shutting up.
Well, but
I know that'd be your next comment.
I know you're actually just saying that, but okay.
Pete, you there?
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yep, morning.
Okay, good, thanks. Listen, thanks for taking this. The way this has devolved is just shocking to me. It sounds like the wild, wild west, but I'll be brief. Who's writing the checks to these people?
Right now, nobody, because they have to, all of the bills have to be paid at the approval of council, thanks to the state auditor's office.
So,
however, I presume his funding requests are being check marked by, interestingly enough, the attorney.
so is he actually, are they actually, Kathleen, the attorney, and Todd, are they actually getting paid?
Yes.
And who's
Well,
paying?
no, they're not getting paid because they can't write the checks right now.
Yes,
But they're
Yes, they
billing.
are.
yes, they are, because the fiscal officer is authorized to continue payments that had been authorized
Well, then we're
by
gonna have to get to the bottom
legislation
of
that
that.
existed, but Bill Gilpin is making the payments.
Well, we're gonna have to get to the bottom of that. So he's already gotten all of his money. That's great. That's
Yeah.
So
wonderful.
this is the crux of my question. You know, what if whoever's writing the checks, what if we just stop writing the checks?
We don't have the authority to do it.
It's the fiscal officer from the village, and he's being communicated with by their attorney, and who the old administrator was, which was also the old Mayor Hart acted as their administrator as well. So now they're saying he is active administrator. So I guess you have him in the role of, I guess, administrator. You have the fiscal officer, Bill Gilpin, and you have Kathy Ryan, the attorney. And that's who's kind of, I mean, they're still paying bills, they're still writing checks, they're still doing that kind of stuff.
And he's not,
But
Mhm.
Pete, to your question, that's a very, your question is very valid, because we don't have any say over that. The way it's now set up, based on the decision that the state provided us in March, council has to, if you want to stop the payments, you have to get council together. We don't have, as the township, either township, have the authority. We could pass a motion today saying we want the payments to stop, but it would have no effect of law. And that's because the state now says the council has to meet in order to make decisions like that. So it's out of our hands.
Okay, so essentially, their administrator is the one who's more or less releasing the funds.
No,
Is
they're a
that-
fiscal officer.
Fiscal officer, okay, all right. And we have no influence over that individual as it
Nope.
stands?
Nope.
None, okay.
No, only the state.
Okay, well, that's terribly troubling. Okay, well, listen, thanks for answering the question. I appreciate the opportunity to just ask that. I didn't mean to turn this into a long discussion, but thank you very much.
Sorry for misleading you at the beginning.
Not a problem. Thank you. I appreciate the clarification.
Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
Tim, did you have another comment, or did I not lower your hand from before? Tim, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
I got you.
Okay. Hey, speaking of the bills, no, Bill Gilpin is paying, because I call.
Yeah, we got
emailed.
that.
But just look at the attorney, any bills that comes through. In the past, council had to go through and approve these. So let's just look at Kathy Ryan. $10,000 spent on attorney fees, and I asked for 3 months of her billing statements, And all I ended up getting was a total at the bottom of $10,000 with everything else redacted. So I don't know what's been done. I don't know exactly this, and this was done. If for what she's doing for that $10,000. Only thing I know is she's working against the village. She worked against the village from the very beginning when she started, like in December of 2018. So it's just very frustrating. That's all I had to say because I was hearing what Pete was saying. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Total BS. I think we're all in agreement. All right. Anything else on this topic? All right. Getting back to the agenda. I think that pretty much sums up our agenda, what we had to discuss today, right?
Hey, Mr. Kelly, this is the police chief here. I do have something to say. I kind of joined the meeting late. Got wrapped up in some issues from the weekend here at work. So I know Loretta talked about the armored car, but there's also a vehicle that I discussed with her, and I think we wanted to bring it to you guys when I got some confirmation. There is a vehicle previously owned by the village of Amelia that we would like to donate to the Claremont County Sheriff's Office. I know we need to meet with Batavia for their input, but I believe I may need to make a motion. Loretta, is that correct?
Yes, that would work similar to the motion that we made before. If the trustees are agreeable to a motion to donate to the drug task force, the Dodge Charger vehicle that was previously slated for the GovDot deals sale. And I'm in preliminary conversations with Batavia Township. They will agree to the same.
Okay, I did talk to the lieutenant down there. They do have an interest in that vehicle. So do you want me to go ahead and kind of voice a motion here?
Yes.
All right, Debbie, you ready?
Debbie's not here. It's me, so
Okay.
talk slow.
Okay. Chief Bachman requests a motion to donate a 2007 vehicle to the Claremont County Sheriff's Office.
Anything else?
I think that's,
It
yeah.
just
that's all.
depends on the concurrence with Batavia Township because it's titled to both of us.
Yes.
So do I want to put that into the motion or?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that, we make our motion and then they can make theirs, right? You don't need to put that in.
Okay. All right.
So-
All right. I have Chief Bachman makes a motion to donate a 2007 vehicle to the Claremont County Sheriff's Office.
Yes.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
Make the motion.
Seconded.
Roll call.
Mrs. Batchelor,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Could I ask a quick question here, Nick?
Sure.
Jeff or Loretta, do you have any idea what the ballpark value of that car is? And the reason I'm asking is because normally when a government donates something to somebody, they say that it has no value. But when you're donating to another government, like you're doing here, it's going to the county, it's okay if it has value. So I just thought it would be good to have in the minutes, just some ballpark, is it worth 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, whatever ballpark. Do you have any idea?
I do have an estimate here. I'm gonna have to dig it out of my Amelia stack here. If you
Just,
give me a
okay, if you could mention it then, or Nick, if you can have him put it into the minutes when he finds it. That would be good.
Cool. All right. Well, we could always, do we have anything else we want to discuss here? Come back to that number.
Well,
Still-
there isn't, go ahead, Loretta.
Well, if you have anything else still on that subject, but related to Amelia and the vacant land, where we need to engage a commercial realtor, that's something that needs some further discussion, because we had talked at the auditors meeting about what procedure we would follow, and the administrators would need to be authorized to engage a commercial realtor. But we need some sense of direction in terms of what process we want to go through in order to select that commercial realtor. So Adele and I spoke and proposed that perhaps we each have one of our trustees designated with us to consider a list of realtors that we would invite to talk with, to determine who we would want to select to sell those vacant parcels to start with. And that was just for the commercial parcels. We also talked about the residential parcels being considered for direct sale. So I don't know what we need in the form of a motion, but we do have a resolution that would authorize the township administrators to engage the realtors once they're selected.
Well, so let's see, can we make this a little bit more palatable as far as what you're looking for? We need to make a decision on a process to determine what realtor we're going to use. Is that the essence?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
we have
jump in.
Go ahead.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I prepared a second draft resolution to do this. The way I wrote it was to give the most flexibility and the least red tape and the most speed that I could think of. So the way I wrote it is the township administrators will select somebody or people, one or more commercial realtors to represent the townships in the sale of commercial real estate. And I mentioned in the resolutions that it's determined to be a professional service and that it would cause an advertisement. Yeah, there it is on the screen. So it's done so that if you want to pass it today, you can. That lets Loretta and the administrator, Ms. Evans, Adele, lets them go find one or more realtors and hire them. And they would just represent us as a listing agent. But then when there's an actual offer, the offer would have to be unanimously approved by both townships. That part you can't get out of. That's mandatory unless you want to auction it off. So if you want to sell to a specific buyer, you have to have unanimous approval by both township boards of trustees. Okay, so
the way it's written, it gives between the two of them, the administrators of Batavia and Pierce respectively, the autonomy to go ahead and go out and find a realtor and pick one.
Yes, yes.
Sounds good to me. I don't know. Any comments on that? All right, do we need to vote on it?
So if you're ready, I could call for that in the form of a motion to pass that resolution, unless you need more thought, and we could bring it to our October agenda. But in the meantime, I'm proposing that one of the trustees be designated to participate, and Adele would have one participate in order to consider what commercial realtors we might engage.
Okay, so it's not just the administrators, it's the administrator and one trustee. Is that how it's written, Tom?
No, it's not written that way at all. It's written that Loretta decides. So I think what Loretta's saying is she's recommending that this resolution that I prepared be amended with the addition of whatever her wording is. I guess it would be on section 1 or no, be section 3, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know that it has to be written in the resolution. I'm saying that the administrators would like the participation of a trustee as we consider what realtors to select, or what one commercial realtor to select.
And that makes sense. That makes sense. Then you wouldn't have to amend it. You could pass it as is, but assign one of the trustees to participate in that evaluation of realtors.
Bonnie or Alan? Are you okay with that, or what do you think?
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with it.
All right, do I have a motion to pass the resolution?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call, Claudia?
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bachelor,
yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes. All right, Chief Bachman, do you have that number yet?
I have two. I have Edmunds.com listed at $1,500 and Carfax listed at $3,700. So if we take a happy median, I would say value is approximately $2,500.
All right, so Claudia, can you add that to to that motion?
Sure can, $2,500.
And Nick, should we also put in there that it is going to the drug task force instead of just sheriff's department? I don't know, Jeff. If that should be added or not.
I think it's fine, just with the sheriff's office.
Okay,
They would be the ones who I believe would be carrying the insurance and everything once it's theirs.
okay.
All right, so Claudia, I believe we already had a motion and a second on that, right?
On the,
Or,
On the vehicle sale or donation?
I think you actually passed it. I think
yeah,
you're
we passed it.
asking to put it in the minutes, so there's something to reflect the value. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if we actually pulled the trigger and did roll call on that.
Yeah, we actually passed, we did
Yeah.
the roll call.
All right, anything else?
Well, if you want to decide which trustee is going to assist Loretta on selecting a realtor, that would be good.
And what was the resolution number on that?
If we're going in order, it would be 2020-27. If, yes, that would be the next one in order.
Nick, I'll just throw it out there. I have time if you or Alan do not. You're both working beavers.
No, I'm happy to participate as well, but if you want to, I'm good with that. Alan, what do you think?
It matters not to me.
All right, Bonnie, it is.
It is.
All right, anything else?
The last topic we have, and we don't have to discuss it a lot because now the deadline has been extended, but CARES Act funding. So we're participating in a webinar tomorrow that talks about the auditing of the funds so that we can make sure that we're solid on the items that we would like to purchase with those funds. We have a significant amount that will be coming to us. And we have all the department heads getting costs for a variety of items. I don't know if any of the department heads wants to speak to that as well. But by the time that we meet again in October, I hope that we'll have more defined lists and costs associated with the items.
I did think about it myself. It's not my position to suggest how you spend the money, but as I read through the CARES Act summary, I noticed that it seems to be a lot of latitude with how the fire and the safety aspect of it can be utilized. So one question I had is whether our fire department can be trained to actually administer COVID tests. And can Pierce establish a COVID testing system internally so that we can test all citizens of Pierce Township? Again, it was just a thought.
Yes, I can chime in on that. So that is not in our scope to do that. Our scope of practice from the state. The state has modified our scope to enable us to give vaccinations for staff. And the health district is working on a lot of those pieces for expanded testing and what the vaccination process will look like and those kind of things.
Oh, dear God. You could actually push a hypodermic needle into my arm, Craig?
I want to do that, Alan.
I'm here to hear Mr. Freeman.
Well, here's my thought. My thought is
I'm
if you can
frightened.
put a hypodermic needle in your arm, you should be able to put a cotton swab in your throat and test you. And if that's available to all citizens of Pierce, we would be like one of the first townships in the state that would make free testing available to our citizens through the funding of this. So I just thought it might be worth looking into.
I think it is worth looking into, and I think, Craig, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the county can actually do that through our auspices, correct?
They can. They're working on some plans for that of what those testing centers could look like or vaccination centers could look like. I know Mercy has rolled out testing at Anderson. A few facilities, Health Source is starting to roll out testing. So it's becoming more prevalent in our county and the area. And people have a much easier access to get tested now than they did, in the several months prior.
Right. I think it's worth digging into and taking a look at among the myriad of other potential sources we can use the funds for, because it's actually a significant amount of money coming down the pike.
Yeah.
Which actually, quite frankly, I was surprised by.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Another CARES Act discussion.
I do have one more thing. So I just finalized it yesterday. I know I think I've discussed it with each of the trustees individually over the last several months. Chief Bachman and I have actually been working on face masks with the township logo. It falls under PPE, which is a give me on the CARES Act funding. I didn't include it for the agenda today because it was just yesterday when I was able to finalize these numbers with the local vendor. And I do have that if you would like me to request the motion today or wait until the October meeting.
I'd say go ahead and do it.
Let's do it.
All right, thank you. So I request a motion to approve the purchase of face coverings from Image First Solutions in the amount of $2,674, noting that this expense be paid from the local government COVID funds.
You'll have to repeat that and talk slower.
I request a motion to approve the purchase of face coverings from Image First Solutions in the amount of $2,674, noting that this expense be paid for from the local government COVID funds.
Okay, I have that Chief Wright requests a motion to approve the purchase of face masks from Image First. I better write that down. In the amount of, did you say $2,674?
Yes, ma'am.
Paid for from the COVID fund.
Yes.
Okay.
You want a motion, Nick, or approval?
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
Seconded.
Roll call.
Mrs. Batchelor,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Thank you. And so we did look at several different styles. So we're getting a few different styles that'll have the township logo on it so that all staff will have masks and spares if they get lost or damaged, or because we could be wearing these for several more months. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. I had another, now that Craig is talking, another issue that came up recently. Well, we had a fire on top of the power plant down at Beck Jord. I think it was last Wednesday evening. And anyway, Craig and I went down there together Craig had to do his investigation on it, and I tagged along and got some info. Craig put out a nice post on our website about kind of explaining the situation and what information we were given as far as what caused it and the magnitude of it and what burned, that kind of thing. So the aspect that I did want to discuss is we have Jenny doing postings on the website and on Facebook. And typically we float information to her to post the stuff. Well, she had an unfortunate family incident going on around the same time. I wouldn't really say this was an emergency per se, but it was information that Craig and I took the time to go and obtaining. It was important that it got out. I think some folks were wondering what was going on with it. Well, there was a lag there, no fault of Jenny's, of course, but Loretta, what is our process for getting stuff posted on that to ensure that if it is an emergency or something gets posted timely?
If it were an emergency, I probably would contacted her directly, even by phone. Otherwise, Laura is our backup. She's also capable of posting. Had I known Jenny wasn't available, we could have asked her to do that. Generally, I ask her to monitor and let me know that it is posted.
Okay, so if the same thing happens again, won't the same thing happen again?
If it's an emergency, we will handle it differently.
So who determines if it's an emergency or when something? So my point is, like, why wouldn't we have a process or procedure in place? So if Craig knows the process, he knows he needs to copy in Laura on it. So a post gets sent to Jenny, Laura gets copied in. That's the process if you want something posted. If Jenny, let's tell Jenny, you know, if you're able to respond within an hour or maybe 2 hours. If you're tied up or something's going on and you don't respond, Laura's going to respond, pick it up and get it posted. If we have a process like that in place, we don't have to worry about it.
If it's urgent, that goes with a message, and then there would be a deadline for posting. Chief Wright sent it directly to Jenny, and we presumed probably a 24-hour turnaround was sufficient. I don't recall exactly how long it took for it to post.
About a week.
Yeah, so again, man, I don't really like, you know, I don't see how that is any improvement or any kind of answer to what our process is. Can you explain that better, or I don't understand?
But did anyone know that Jenny was having an issue and would not be?
That's the issue precisely, Bonnie, exactly. We don't know, so we don't have a backup. So again, back to if we have a process, and whether it's urgent or not, just have, and again, I can come in and I can set processes up and I can, you know, you can tell me what the issue is and I can analyze it and I can come up with a process. I can write it down in detail out and email it to Craig and Chief Bachman and John and Jenny and everybody else so they understand what the process is and it'll work and things will get posted. What I'm wondering is that something you think you could do, Loretta?
If we put a deadline on the post, and then post is sent directly to Jenny, we copy Laura, and then we'll have to know that both of them, if it's not posted within a certain deadline, we'll have to put a deadline on each of these posts in terms of what the content is and what's reasonable. Then if one hasn't posted, the other one will. So whoever sends the post is going to have to make sure that we check that documentation, but put a deadline on the request with the post. This one wasn't considered an emergency, therefore we didn't follow up faster than your expectation.
Well, I think if we have a process for any post and they just get put out timely in general, I think that would be a much better way to approach it. So if we could just type out a posting process and procedure and maybe get that out to the department heads and anybody who's going to have information to post, then our problem's solved and we move on, right?
We will.
All right. That was easy enough.
I'll share it with you once I draft it.
I think Elon had an easier time launching the rockets off to the International Space Station. Pete.
Okay, sorry, 2 brief points. Thanks for again accepting. To Tom's point about COVID testing for township residents and/or employees, I think that's a great idea. I can speak to the fact that the testing is relatively uncomplicated as long as you have an individual or individuals that are willing to do it. It's very straightforward, and the supplies can be obtained reasonably readily as long as that's done in advance from a local laboratory such as LabCorp, which is who we use. So if there's any interest in pursuing that, I'm happy to offer as a resident, a medical perspective on that. Second point is regarding the influenza vaccination. Just for a point of information for staff and employees and of the township, particularly first responders, there is, as we have predicted, there is a shortage, as we're already seeing it locally at retailers, for the influenza vaccine. So if those individuals have not been vaccinated and are willing and open to that, it would be a good recommendation for them to consider getting vaccinated as soon as possible, because it's unclear as to whether or not there will be additional supply once what's available runs out. That's all I had to say.
And may I ask, Pete, under what authority do you have to know these things?
It's called a state medical license.
Oh dear, does that make you a
Oh my
doctor?
goodness. Oh, perhaps. But we're seeing it, we've got plenty.
Stick that arm of Alan.
We've got square needles for Alan.
That's right.
Oh, goodness.
Thank you.
I'm in trouble. I'm in so much trouble.
You have no idea.
Bonnie just wants to have our board meetings in person again for only one reason. She wants to get back in that room to kick me, just to kick me.
That's how we keep you in control.
True.
All right, let's see, any other public comment? Anybody else have anything?
One thing I wanted to add, please.
Yes.
There have been questions about the Premier project and where it stands and where the money went. And I just want everybody to know that the Village of Amelia was able to obtain the financial documents, the documentation of where money has gone from this mysterious funding process they had. So I took a quick look at the funding documents, and all I can say is they're available for those who can understand them and those who want them. But they're out there. So somebody has responded to the request that both townships and the village presented, which was to find out what money has been spent, where it went, and how much is left. So it's out there.
Could you give that to the 3 trustees, please?
Could I what?
Could you distribute that? If you have the documents, can you distribute that to all 3 of us?
Yeah, I will distribute the link. You'd have to open them up, and
okay.
Good luck understanding them.
Oh, no.
But yeah, I'll send them to all 3.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Since it's complex, that means they used quite a bit of it.
I don't know. I don't think they used too much, but I don't profess to understand everything that was in there.
Can't wait.
All right, anything else? All right, well, this has been fun. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call, Claudia?
Mrs. Bachelor,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes. All right, guys, see you at the next one.
I'm gonna go home and find that blunt needle for Alan.
See you.
See ya.
Craig. Wait a minute.